The unexpected summons. In the farthest corner of Earth's bustling cityscape, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and communication towers hummed with unrelenting energy, Logan Carter found peace in solitude. His world was one of wires, circuits, and silent screens. Logan, a systems technician with a knack for fixing what others deemed impossible, thrived in the shadows. The chaos of the universe beyond his workroom's window was a mess he preferred not to meddle with. But on one seemingly ordinary morning, that peace shattered. A knock echoed against his steel apartment door. 3 sharp raps. Logan froze mid-sip of lukewarm coffee. Visitors were as rare in his life as winning lottery tickets. Grumbling, he shuffled toward the door, his bare feet cold against the metallic flooring. Swinging it open, Logan squinted at the unexpected sight before him. A drone. The sleek, golden courier drone hovered in the air with an elegant hum. It bore no markings, only a symbol carved into its shimmering surface. Twin orbs, one pristine and radiant, the other fractured and shadowed. Logan frowned. This wasn't Earth tech. Before he could react, the drone emitted a soft chime, and a compartment slid open. The thick, metallic envelope dropped gently into Logan's hands before the drone whisked away into the sky, leaving only an eerie silence behind. Logan turned the envelope over in his hands. It was heavy, solid, and sealed with the same twin orb insignia. Curious and slightly unsettled, he peeled it open. The paper inside wasn't paper at all. It shimmered faintly, as though imbued with a low current of energy. The words, written in flawless script, appeared and shifted as he read. To Logan Carter of Earth, by decree of His Majesty, Cain Velorn Ivy of the Canarian Empire, it is with solemn duty that you are hereby named legal custodian to the twin daughters of the late king, heirs to the Canarian crown and all attached estates. Logan blinked. Once, twice, and then he laughed, the sound sharp and incredulous. "This has to be a prank," he muttered, reading the letter again just to be sure. But the words didn't change. He tossed the letter onto his cluttered desk and rubbed his temples. Custodian, king, twin daughters. Logan didn't know what a Canarian empire was, let alone how or why a monarch would single him out. It had to be a scam, albeit a very elaborate one. He leaned back, staring up at the stained ceiling of his small apartment. His contemplation didn't last long. Before Logan could settle back into his routine, a loud hum reverberated outside his window. He shot to his feet and pulled the blinds open. Hovering above the city skyline was a transport ship, its sleek silhouette gleaming with a metallic sheen that reflected the sunlight. Every rooftop within sight had turned into a stage for onlookers craning their necks to catch a glimpse. Logan stumbled backward as the ship descended to hover just above his building. A ramp extended, and a towering figure emerged, a humanoid dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid metal. The figure moved with calm precision, his expression as severe as the scene unfolding. A sharp knock sounded on the door. Logan's pulse quickened. He opened it to face the tall stranger whose skin held a faint bluish hue. The alien's eyes, sharp and glinting like polished onyx, regarded him with curiosity, and perhaps a hint of pity. "Logan Carter?" the alien asked, his deep voice resonating through the narrow hallway. Logan swallowed hard. "Yeah, that's me." The alien gave a formal bow. "I am Ambassador Ryvek of the Canarian Empire. By royal order, I am here to escort you to the capital." Logan's jaw nearly dropped. He glanced between the looming figure and the transport ship that idled ominously outside. "You're serious. You're actually serious." Ryvek's expression remained stoic. "The Royal Council awaits your presence." Logan pinched the bridge of his nose. "Look, I think there's been a mistake. I'm nobody. I fix things. That's it. I'm not custodian material, or royal material, or whatever this is." Ryvek's gaze softened ever so slightly. The late king's will was explicit. You were chosen, and in matters of royal decree, there are no mistakes. A rush of nerves and frustration churned within Logan. This couldn't be happening. He wasn't equipped for grand councils, royal heirs, or anything remotely close to interstellar politics. And yet, the ambassador's presence, along with the transport ship casting shadows over the city, seemed all too real. "You have no choice," Rivek said, as if reading Logan's hesitation. "Time is of the essence, and the council is not known for patience. You must come." Logan exhaled shakily and glanced back at his cluttered desk. Part of him wanted to slam the door shut, curl back into the safety of his mundane existence, and forget this day ever happened. But another part, perhaps the part that had always stared up at the stars wondering what lay beyond, whispered otherwise. Before he could talk himself out of it, Logan grabbed his jacket. "Fine," he said, pointing a finger at Rivek. "But if this is some elaborate kidnapping scheme, I'm throwing you out of that ship." Rivek's lips quirked into the faintest hint of a smile. "Noted." Moments later, Logan found himself ascending the sleek transport ship's ramp. The interior was bathed in golden light, the air humming with energy that sent chills down his spine. He sank into an oddly comfortable seat as the doors hissed shut behind him. Rivek took a seat opposite Logan and folded his hands in his lap. "Our journey to the Canarian capital will take approximately 4 hours. I suggest you prepare yourself." Logan glanced out the window, where Earth's skyline grew smaller by the second, swallowed by the atmosphere as the ship shot toward the stars. He couldn't stop the knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. This was no prank. It wasn't a scam. Whatever awaited him at the Canarian capital was far beyond anything he had ever imagined. "Prepare myself," Logan muttered under his breath, watching the planet he called home disappear into the void. "How do you prepare for something like this?" Rivek's voice, calm and measured, cut through the hum of the ship. "By remembering one thing, Logan Carter. The universe has its ways of testing those it deems worthy, and you have been chosen for a reason." Logan leaned back, his thoughts racing as the stars streaked past the window. Chosen? For what? And as the ship sped toward the unknown, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet, uneventful life had just come to a very abrupt end. Arrival at the Canarian capital. The silence of space was unlike anything Logan Carter had ever known. The sleek Canarian vessel glided through the void as if it owned the stars, its engines humming softly, a sound both comforting and alien. Logan sat stiffly in his seat, trying not to gawk at the breathtaking spectacle unfolding through the panoramic windows. Nebulas drifted like celestial clouds, stars sparkled in impossible hues, and distant galaxies loomed like eternal watchmen. For a systems technician from Earth, the universe had always been pixels on a screen where data sent across relay stations. But now it was real, vast, and overwhelming. Ambassador Rivek sat across from him, unbothered and composed as ever. Logan, on the other hand, felt his stomach twist into knots. Each passing moment only solidified the absurdity of his situation. He'd been dragged into space to become the custodian of royal twins, children of an alien king he'd never met. It was ridiculous. "Is it too late to change my mind?" Logan asked suddenly, his voice breaking the quiet. Rivek looked up, raising a brow. "We are minutes from arrival. If you wish to walk home through the void of space, I'm sure accommodations could be made." Logan scowled. "That's not funny." The ambassador's lip quirked in amusement, but before Logan could protest further, the ship lurched slightly. Rivek gestured toward the viewport. "We're here." Logan turned, and his breath caught. The Canarian capital, Canthera, loomed before them, an artificial marvel suspended above the planet's surface. It was no ordinary city. Towering spires twisted and arched like works of art, their surfaces glowing with veins of molten gold. The structures floated as if gravity was a suggestion, connected by shimmering bridges of light. Fleets of ships, small and massive, darted between the towers like schools of fish in the ocean. The closer they came, the more Logan realized the scale of it all. Canthera wasn't just a city. It was an empire in motion, a civilization far beyond Earth's comprehension. He pressed his face closer to the glass, unable to look away. First time seeing a Megacity. Ryvek's voice held a touch of humor. It's like something out of a dream, Logan admitted, awestruck. How is this even real? Canarian ingenuity, Ryvek replied, built over millennia. We survive by mastering the impossible. As the ship descended, Logan felt his confidence shrinking further. He was an outsider here, a technician, not a diplomat or a leader. He didn't belong. When the ship finally docked at a platform extending from one of the tallest spires, Logan gripped the armrests of his seat as if his life depended on it. The doors hissed open, and Ryvek rose gracefully, motioning for Logan to follow. Try to breathe, Ryvek said as they walked onto the platform. This is merely the beginning. Logan's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped into the alien world. The air was crisp and clean, tinged with a faint, sweet aroma that was both pleasant and unfamiliar. Catherine guards, draped in shimmering silver armor, flanked the walkway. Their visors glowed with blue light as they tracked his every move. Logan glanced at Ryvek. Friendly welcome party you've got here. They're curious, Ryvek said simply. Humans are rare in Canthera. The council has made your inheritance quite the spectacle. Of course they did, Logan muttered. They were led into a grand hall, if hall was even the right word. It stretched endlessly, its ceiling disappearing into a sea of constellations projected like a living galaxy. The walls pulsed with gold patterns that shifted in mesmerizing waves, and at the far end, a massive circular table loomed, surrounded by alien figures of varying shapes and sizes. The Galactic Council. Logan swallowed hard as dozens of eyes, some human-like, others entirely alien, swiveled to regard him. There were towering reptilian beings draped in silk robes, translucent entities that shimmered with internal light, and even mechanical hybrids whose gears whirred with precision. Every one of them seemed far more suited for this kind of place than Logan. As they approached, a voice thundered from the far end of the table. So this is him, the Earthling. The speaker was an imposing figure, a tall, feline-like alien with sharp golden eyes and fur that gleamed like burnished copper. His lips curled into what Logan could only assume was a sneer. Logan Carter, Ryvek announced with authority, bowing slightly, custodian of the royal twins, as decreed by King Cain Velorn Ivy. Logan stepped forward, every nerve screaming at him to turn and bolt, but his feet refused to obey. He cleared his throat. Hi. Laughter erupted from several council members, echoing through the hall. Some clapped mockingly, while others exchanged amused glances. Is this some cosmic joke? The feline alien scoffed. The king's final wish is to hand the future of Canarian royalty to this. Logan's face flushed. He clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath his anxiety. Listen, he said, louder than he meant to. I don't know what's going on here, but I didn't ask for this. If you're expecting me to wave a magic wand and act like royalty, you're out of luck. I fix things. That's all I do. The room fell silent, and Logan instantly regretted his outburst. But then, a low hum of approval rippled through the air. A tall, ethereal figure cloaked in swirling mist leaned forward. Its voice resonated like a chorus of whispers. Perhaps that is precisely why he was chosen. The feline alien scowled. A gamble, nothing more. Logan blinked, confused. Ryvek inclined his head, whispering, Do not underestimate the council. They see potential where others see flaws. Before Logan could respond, another voice spoke, a soft yet commanding tone that silenced the room. Bring the twins. The council chamber doors opened, and two figures entered, the royal twins. Logan's breath caught as they approached. The first twin moved with regal poise, her steps graceful, her face as flawless as carved marble. Her eyes glowed faintly with a golden hue, her expression calm and calculating. The second twin was a stark contrast. She strode forward with uncontained energy, her fiery red hair cascading wildly around her face. Her features were sharp and defiant, and her mismatched eyes, one gold, one dark, burned with an intensity that made Logan uneasy. They stopped before Logan, both staring at him as if trying to decide his worth. Logan stared back, dumbfounded. How had he ended up here? And then the fiery twin smirked. "You're not what I expected." Logan sighed. "Join the club." The council watched in silence, their judgment palpable. Whatever happened next, Logan knew one thing. His life was no longer his own. The unlike twins. The council chamber, for all its splendor, felt suffocating. Logan Carter stood frozen, caught between the piercing gazes of the council and the unnerving presence of the royal twins. It wasn't just their appearances that unsettled him. It was the weight of their existence, two halves of a story he had no part in writing. The first twin, regal and serene, regarded Logan with a cool, calculating stare. Her golden eyes didn't blink, didn't waver. She was flawless in every sense. Her posture, her features, even the way her violet cloak swept the floor. Logan felt judged, measured, and found lacking. The second twin, however, was an entirely different storm. She was a whirlwind of energy, with her untamed red hair and mismatched eyes, one blazing gold, the other a shadowed murky hue. There was mischief there, wild and unfiltered. She stepped forward, her boots clapping loudly against the marble floor, echoing in defiance. "So," she said, her smirk widening into a grin, "this is the famous Logan Carter, the man who gets to inherit us. You don't look like much." Logan blinked. "That makes two of us," he muttered before he could stop himself. Her grin widened. The golden twin shot her a look that could have turned ice to water. "Sarah," she said softly, her voice laced with warning. The fiery twin, Sarah, ignored her, eyes fixed on Logan. "You've got guts, Earthling. I'll give you that." The golden twin finally spoke, her voice a melody of calm authority. "You'll have to forgive my sister's lack of decorum. I am Ilara, and I assure you, despite the absurdity of this situation, we expect you to fulfill your duty with dignity and competence." Logan snorted before he could stop himself. "You're kidding, right? I still don't know what this duty is, or why I'm even here." The council stirred, murmurs rippling through the room. Logan's outburst was clearly not the response they expected. Ambassador Revek coughed, stepping forward quickly. Perhaps now is the time for clarity. He turned to face Logan, the council, and the twins. The king's will was explicit. Logan Carter of Earth was chosen for his ingenuity, his ability to solve problems that others deem unsolvable. The Canarian Empire stands at a delicate threshold, and the future of its royal line depends on him. Logan ran a hand through his hair, his frustration boiling over. "I don't know what any of that means. I'm just a systems tech, not some intergalactic babysitter." Ilara's gaze sharpened. "We are not children." Sarah laughed, throwing her head back. "Oh, let him complain, Ilara. Watching him flail is the most entertainment I've had in years." Logan turned on her, jabbing a finger in her direction. "And you. I don't know who you are, but you're making this 10 times worse." Rivek stepped between them, his calm demeanor finally cracking into irritation. "Enough. All of you." He turned to Logan, voice steady but firm. "You were chosen not because of what you know, but because of who you are." The king believed in the strength of humanity. He believed that someone ordinary could rise to meet the extraordinary. Logan's shoulders sagged. And what if he was wrong? A strange silence filled the chamber. Ilara's golden eyes softened. Just a fraction, and for the first time, Logan saw something other than judgment, hesitation, perhaps even doubt. "Then we all lose," she said quietly. Before Logan could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low hum filled the air, rising into a vibrating thrum that made the walls shimmer. The council members exchanged wary glances. Logan looked around in alarm. "Oh, what's happening?" One of the guards burst into the chamber, his silver armor gleaming under the golden light. Ambassador Rivek. He called, voice edged with panic. There's an unauthorized fleet breaching the outer defense rings. The shields are failing. The council erupted into chaos. Alien dignitaries rose from their seats, some shouting orders, others activating translucent holograms that hovered midair. Logan turned to Rivek. A fleet? Breaching what? Rivek's face darkened. This is no coincidence. Someone does not approve of the king's decree. And they're taking action. Sarah grinned, stepping forward with a gleam of excitement in her mismatched eyes. About time something interesting happened around here. Ilara shot her sister a glare. You're insufferable. And you're boring. Logan raised both hands in frustration. Excuse me, can someone explain what's going on before I lose my mind? Rivek ignored his outburst, issuing orders to the guards while the council began evacuating. The room trembled again, the vibrations growing stronger. Above them, the ceiling of constellations flickered erratically. Rivek turned to Logan, urgency in his voice. We need to move. Now. Move where? Logan demanded. To safety, Ilara said firmly, striding forward. The council chambers will not hold if the fleet breaks through. Sarah grabbed Logan's arm, grinning like a madwoman. Relax, Earthling. This is where the fun begins. Logan yanked his arm free, glaring at her. This isn't fun. This is insane. Before Sarah could retort, a deafening explosion rocked the tower, sending tremors through the floor. Above them, pieces of the ornate ceiling cracked and fell in shards of golden light. Logan ducked instinctively as a piece narrowly missed him. Rivek barked an order. Protect the twins. Get to the emergency transport. Sarah grabbed Logan's hand, tugging him toward the exit. Come on, hero boy. You wanted a purpose, didn't you? Logan stumbled after her, Ilara close behind. I didn't ask for this, he shouted. Sarah laughed. Doesn't matter now. As they ran through the corridor, the walls pulsed with red warning lights, and the distant hum of explosions rattled the air. Logan's mind raced as quickly as his feet. Whatever conflict had been brewing in this empire had now boiled over, and somehow he was right in the middle of it. All he wanted was to fix machines, live a quiet life, and avoid trouble. But as he sprinted alongside the royal twins, one regal, one chaotic, Logan realized there was no going back. The universe had thrown him into the fire, and ready or not, he had to survive it. The shattered crown. The corridors of the Canarian capital groaned as if the city itself were in pain. Explosions echoed like rolling thunder, shaking the tower to its core. Lights flickered, casting jagged shadows across the walls as Logan sprinted to keep up with the twins. Sarah led the way, her wild red hair like a beacon in the chaos, while Ilara moved with calm precision, her golden cloak flowing behind her. Where are we even going? Logan shouted, stumbling over a fallen piece of debris. To the escape transport. Ilara called back, her voice steady despite the destruction. It's the only way off this spire. Sarah twisted her head with a wicked grin. Try to keep up, Earthling. I'd hate to see you flattened. Logan's frustration bubbled over. I didn't sign up to be part of a space war. Another explosion rocked the building, and a section of the ceiling collapsed just behind them. Dust and light rained down as Logan dove forward, narrowly escaping. His chest heaved as he scrambled back to his feet. Ahead, Sarah turned to face him, her mismatched eyes alive with something Logan couldn't quite place. Excitement. Challenge. You're quick when you need to be, she teased. Stop flirting and keep moving. Ilara snapped, pushing past her sister. We don't have time for games. Games? I'm not the one dragging a clueless technician into royal family drama. Logan shot back, his voice edged with panic. Quiet. Rivek's sharp voice cut through their bickering. The ambassador emerged from a side corridor, his robe disheveled, his usually calm demeanor replaced with urgency. The enemy fleet has breached the outer shields. Their ground forces are deploying now. You must get to the transport. Immediately. Logan blinked. Ground forces? You mean they're coming here? Yes, Rivek said darkly. And they will not stop until they have the royal twins. Sarah's grin faltered, though she quickly covered it with bravado. Let them try. Ilara stepped closer to Logan, her voice low and serious. You need to understand, Logan. This attack isn't random. Whoever is behind this believes the late king's decision to name you custodian was a mistake. They want to seize power, and we are their prize. Logan stared at her, wide-eyed. So let me get this straight. Someone's attacking an entire city just because of me. No, Ilara said softly. They're attacking because of what you represent. Change. And change is dangerous. Logan felt his heart drop into his stomach. He had always been a problem solver, the guy who fixed things when they broke. But this was something else entirely. He opened his mouth to argue when a sudden boom rocked the walls, followed by a shrill alarm. The guards are falling back. Rivek shouted. We have to move. The group broke into a sprint, weaving through corridors that had once been pristine and glowing, but were now broken and scorched. Logan could hear the sounds of battle. Blaster fire, distant shouting, and the whir of ships hovering just outside. The closer they got to the transport hangar, the heavier his legs felt. I can't do this, he muttered under his breath. I don't belong here. I'm not some hero. Sarah, running just ahead, glanced back over her shoulder. Oh, don't start that again. You're alive, aren't you? Keep running. Ilara shot him a more measured look. Sarah's right. You may not see it yet, but you are here for a reason. Before Logan could respond, they burst through a pair of massive doors into the hangar. The space was vast, with ships of varying sizes parked along the glowing landing pads. A small, sleek craft hummed at the center, its entrance ramp already extended. Guards scrambled to prepare it, their weapons drawn as the far hangar doors began to shake. Something was trying to breach them. Rivek stopped and turned to Logan, his face grave. Get aboard. I'll hold them off. Logan shook his head. What? You're staying. Rivek grabbed Logan's shoulder, forcing him to look into his piercing gaze. Protect them, Logan. That is your duty. Whether you accept it or not, the fate of this empire may rest in your hands. The words struck like a hammer. Logan stood frozen as Rivek turned and marched toward the trembling hangar doors, flanked by guards. Sarah yanked Logan's arm, pulling him toward the ship. Come on. We don't have time for your existential crisis. Ilara followed, her calm slipping just enough to reveal the stress she was holding back. We'll figure it out once we're safe. Just move. Logan stumbled up the ramp, his head spinning as the chaos swirled around him. As soon as they boarded, Ilara slammed a control panel, and the ship's doors sealed with a hiss. Sarah rushed to the cockpit, flipping switches with practiced ease. Can you even fly this thing? Logan asked, his voice cracking. Watch and learn, Earthling, Sarah said, her grin returning as she grabbed the controls. The ship shuddered to life, its engines roaring to full power. Outside, a deafening crash signaled the hangar doors giving way. Logan glanced through the viewport and saw armored figures flooding in. Enemy soldiers in dark suits of plated metal, their weapons glowing with red energy. Blaster fire lit the hangar like a storm, but the ship lurched upward just in time. We're clear, Sarah shouted triumphantly, piloting the craft through the debris-streaked sky. Logan slumped into his seat, his breath shaky. We made it. Ilara's voice was firm but hollow. For now. Through the cockpit window, Logan could see the Canarian capital falling away beneath them. The grand towers of Canthera were now dotted with fire, smoke curling into the void of space like dark tendrils. Ships swarmed in the air, exchanging bright beams of light and explosions that punctuated the chaos. And yet, as he watched the Empire's capital burn, Logan couldn't help but feel the weight pressing down on him. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was part of this, whether he liked it or not. Ilara sat across from him, her golden eyes unreadable. "We don't have much time, Logan. Whoever launched this attack won't stop hunting us." Sarah, still at the controls, added with a smirk, "You'd better start figuring out how to be useful, Earthling. Things are about to get a lot more interesting." Logan buried his face in his hands. He didn't ask for this, but one thing was clear. He couldn't run from it anymore. A flight through fire. The ship trembled as it tore through the chaos-streaked atmosphere of Canthera. Logan gripped the edges of his seat so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Every bone-rattling shake was punctuated by flashes of red light outside the viewport. Enemy ships in relentless pursuit. "Are we even moving fast enough?" Logan shouted, trying to steady his voice over the roar of the engines. Sarah, seated in the pilot's chair, grinned as if the universe were her personal playground. Her mismatched eyes glinted with excitement as she twisted the controls, sending the ship into a sharp barrel roll. "Fast enough to keep you screaming, Earthling." "I'm not screaming." Logan's voice cracked mid-sentence as the ship dove, the force slamming him back into his seat. Ilara, who sat serenely beside Sarah, gripped the armrest but maintained her composed demeanor. "Sarah, focus. This is not a game. Those fighters will not relent until we're gone." "Oh, I'm focused." Sarah shot back, yanking the ship upward just as a bright red energy blast missed them by inches. "Besides, you think they're bad. You should see me play cards." Logan's frustration bubbled over. "This isn't a joke. We're being shot at. By aliens." "Technically, you're the alien here," Sarah quipped without missing a beat. Before Logan could retort, the ship shuddered violently. The energy shields flared brilliant blue as a blast collided with their rear engines. Alarms blared, a cacophony of warning chimes and flashing lights filling the cockpit. Ilara turned sharply toward Sarah. "They've hit the stabilizers. If we take another direct hit, we're finished." Yeah, I know," Sarah muttered, her hands flying across the controls. "We need an exit. Fast." Logan leaned forward, staring through the viewport at the fleet of enemy ships closing in behind them. He could see their sleek forms streaking through the black void like predatory shadows. For every twist, dive, or barrel roll Sarah executed, they mirrored her movements, unrelenting. "What about those rings?" Logan pointed toward a dense cluster of asteroids that loomed ahead like a cosmic minefield. "Can't we lose them in there?" Sarah's grin widened. "You might not be as useless as I thought, Earthling." Ilara frowned. "That's dangerous. The asteroid rings are unstable. One wrong move and..." "We're toast either way," Sarah interrupted, throwing the ship into a steep dive. "Better to take our chances than get picked off like fish in a barrel." Logan's stomach dropped as the ship accelerated toward the asteroid field. The massive rocks drifted in eerie silence, some tumbling in slow, chaotic arcs, while others slammed into each other with violent force. It was a labyrinth of destruction, one miscalculation away from disaster. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, teeth bared with exhilaration as she navigated between the massive stones. The ship weaved and rolled with breathtaking speed, skimming dangerously close to the jagged edges of asteroids the size of skyscrapers. Behind them, the enemy ships hesitated before following. Their formation broke apart as they spread out, some smashing into rocks with fiery explosions that lit the dark field like sudden fireworks. Logan pressed his forehead to the window, his heart pounding. "They're crashing. It's working." "Of course it's working," Sarah snapped. "I'm brilliant." Ilara shook her head in exasperation but didn't argue. "Just keep flying. We need to reach clear space before the engines fail completely." Logan turned his attention to the cockpit screens. The rear monitor displayed the chasing ships, those that remained. A few had managed to match Sarah's maneuvers, weaving through the chaos with deadly precision. But even as they closed the gap, Logan's eyes caught something new. A colossal asteroid loomed in their path. It was bigger than anything else in the field, its surface uneven and fractured with glowing red fissures that pulsed like veins beneath skin. "Sarah," Logan's voice faltered. "That's not a normal rock." Sarah's grin faded. "Yeah, I see it." Ilara's gaze hardened. "It's unstable. It's about to collapse." Logan's brain raced, desperate for a solution. Can we use it? Like force it to collapse early? That might block the other ships." Sarah shot him a glance of surprise. "You're getting ideas now, Earthling. I like it. Are you both insane?" Ilara snapped. "If that asteroid collapses while we're in its wake, it'll destroy us too. It's better than being fried by their blasters," Logan argued, his pulse thundering in his ears. "We don't have much choice." Sarah's fingers hovered over the controls, her grin returning like a spark of fire. "Hold on to something, kids. Let's make some chaos." Before Ilara could protest, Sarah fired a volley of energy blasts directly at the asteroid. The force shook the ship as red fissures exploded into life, cracks spiderwebbing across the asteroid's surface. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then it began to break. The asteroid fractured with a deafening roar, massive chunks tearing apart, as if the universe itself had decided to split it in two. The shockwave sent debris spiraling in every direction. Logan braced himself, gripping the seat as the ship jolted violently, Sarah pushing the thrusters to their limits. The pursuing ships were not as lucky. Pieces of the asteroid slammed into them, fire and metal bursting in every direction as the shockwave shredded their formation. What few ships remained turned tail, retreating into the darkness. "We did it!" Logan shouted, his chest heaving. Sarah whooped triumphantly, slamming her fist on the console. "I told you we'd make it." Ilara exhaled slowly, her composure frayed but intact. "That was reckless. Unbelievably reckless." Sarah shrugged, her smirk unrepentant. "And it worked." Logan leaned back in his seat, still trying to catch his breath. "Is it always like this with you two?" Ilara turned to face him, her golden eyes unreadable. "Only when survival demands it." Sarah winked. "You'll get used to it, Earthling." Logan let out a breathless laugh, staring out the viewport as the asteroid field faded into the distance. The enemy ships were gone, at least for now. But the silence that followed felt heavier than it should. Ilara's voice broke through the quiet. "They'll regroup." That was only the beginning. Logan frowned. "Then where do we go now?" Sarah's grin disappeared. "Somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere no one can." Ilara glanced at Logan, her tone grave. "The king trusted you for a reason. You need to start trusting yourself." Logan stared out at the endless void of space, the stars stretching on forever. For the first time, he realized that the galaxy was far bigger and far more dangerous than he'd ever imagined. And somehow, he was at the center of it. Shadows of betrayal. The silence of deep space was deceptive, like a predator waiting just out of sight. The ship drifted quietly now, leaving the chaos of the asteroid field and the Canarian fleet far behind. For the first time since Logan had stepped foot on the alien craft, there was no hum of explosions, no screeching alarms, only the rhythmic thrum of the ship's engines and the faint hum of the stars outside. Logan sat slumped in his chair, the weight of everything pressing down on him. His body ached, his mind raced, and his heart wouldn't stop hammering in his chest. He'd survived, again, but every step deeper into this strange journey left him feeling further from home, further from the life he understood. Across from him, Ilara sat perfectly composed, her golden eyes scanning the screens in front of her. Sarah, on the other hand, sprawled lazily in the pilot's seat, boots propped up on the control panel, her mismatched eyes flickering with amusement. "You look like you're about to melt into a puddle," she teased, breaking the silence. Logan shot her a glare, his voice hoarse. "I think I've earned the right to a minor meltdown." "You survived asteroid dodging, enemy fire, and Sarah's piloting," Ilara said calmly. "That's more than most people could manage on their first day." Logan ran a hand through his hair. That doesn't make me qualified to. To what? Sarah cut in, smirking. Be a hero. Face it, Earthling. You're knee-deep in royal mess now, and whether you like it or not, you're stuck with us. Logan groaned and slouched deeper into his seat. That's what I'm afraid of. Before Sarah could retort, Ilara straightened suddenly, her calm breaking as a console near her flickered red. Something's wrong. Sarah swung her boots off the controls and leaned forward, the teasing edge vanishing in an instant. What now? Ilara tapped the panel, her brow furrowing. There's an energy signature nearby. Small, but distinct. It's not one of ours. Logan sat up, dread pooling in his stomach. Enemy ship. Ilara hesitated. No, it's broadcasting a Canarian signal, but the encryption is outdated. It doesn't make sense. Sarah shot her sister a suspicious look. Outdated? That sounds like a trap to me. Ilara didn't respond immediately, her golden eyes narrowing as she analyzed the screen. Finally, she stood. We're investigating it. Sarah snorted. You've got to be kidding me. The last time we investigated something suspicious, the sky exploded. We need answers, Ilara said firmly. We don't know who orchestrated the attack, and this signal may hold the information we need. Or it could get us killed, Sarah muttered, but she didn't argue further. She pulled the ship toward the source of the signal, its faint beacon glowing like a small ember in the dark sea of stars. Logan watched uneasily as the view outside shifted. Slowly, a derelict ship came into view. It drifted through space like a ghost, its hull dark and riddled with gashes. The faint Canarian insignia was barely visible on its side, scratched and scorched. Logan's stomach twisted. That ship's been through hell, he murmured. Ilara nodded. It's an older model. Abandoned, perhaps. Sarah squinted at the viewport, or bait. The ship's systems chimed softly, locking onto the drifting vessel. Ilara glanced at Logan. We need to board it. What? Logan sputtered. Why we? Can't you just scan it from here? Ilara's tone was firm. The answers we need are inside. That ship could tell us who betrayed the king and orchestrated the attack on Canthera. Sarah smirked at Logan. Don't worry, Earthling. I'll hold your hand if you're scared. Logan shot her a glare. I'm not scared. I just don't like creepy, abandoned ships. Then this'll be a learning experience, Sarah replied, rising from her seat and cracking her knuckles. Let's suit up. Minutes later, Logan found himself inside an armored pressure suit, a helmet locking over his head with a faint hiss. Sarah and Ilara stood beside him, their movements graceful despite their suits. The small boarding craft hummed as it detached from the main ship and floated toward the derelict vessel. Logan's breaths came too fast as the blackened hull of the ghost ship loomed closer. This is a bad idea, he muttered, the words echoing in his helmet. Stop whining, Sarah said. We'll be fine. Probably. The boarding craft latched onto the derelict ship with a dull clunk. A hatch hissed open, revealing a dark, hollow corridor beyond. Lights flickered faintly within, as though the ship were clinging to the last traces of its dying energy. Sarah stepped forward first, her voice crackling in Logan's ear. Welcome to the House of Nightmares. Ilara shot her sister a glare. Focus. This ship isn't as dead as it looks. As they moved cautiously through the corridors, Logan's skin crawled. The walls were scared, the air stale, and faint echoes whispered from unseen corners. Panels sparked intermittently, casting eerie shadows. It felt like walking through the ribcage of a long-dead beast. Why would someone leave this here? Logan asked quietly, his voice trembling. Maybe they didn't have a choice, Ilara replied softly. Ahead, they reached what looked like the command deck. Screens flickered weakly, displaying broken streams of data. A single console pulsed with faint light. Ilara stepped forward, her fingers moving quickly across the cracked surface. There's a data core intact. I can extract it, but it'll take a few minutes. Sarah turned to Logan, her mismatched eyes sharp. "Keep watch. If anything moves, shoot it." Logan looked at her in disbelief. "Shoot what? There's nothing alive here." Sarah's smirk was humorless. "You'd be surprised." As Ilara worked, Logan's nerves stretched thin. Every creak of metal, every flicker of light made him jump. He kept glancing behind them, his helmet lamp sweeping through the darkness. "Done," Ilara finally said, holding up a small glowing drive. "Let's get out of here." Before anyone could move, a sudden rumble shook the ship. The lights flared bright for an instant, then plunged the corridor into darkness. Logan froze, his pulse thundering in his ears. "What was that?" he whispered. Ilara's voice was urgent. "We need to go, now." Sarah grabbed Logan's arm, pulling him toward the hatch. "Run, Earthling. Move." They sprinted through the corridor as the rumbling grew louder, metal groaning all around them. Logan didn't dare look back. Whatever was waking up in that ship was no longer sleeping. They reached the boarding craft just as something massive moved in the shadows behind them. Logan caught a glimpse, shifting metal, glowing red eyes, and then the hatch slammed shut. "What was that?" Logan shouted as the craft detached and shot back toward safety. Ilara's voice was tight. "We may have just found out why this ship was abandoned." Sarah stared through the viewport, her expression uncharacteristically serious. "Yeah. And whatever it was, it saw us." Logan swallowed hard, staring back at the derelict ship. The glowing red eyes still burned faintly in the darkness, watching them as they sped away into the void.